everybody, I'm Christopher from ChinaMobileMag.com and I'm here with the UMI C1, the so-called quad-core killer. So, is there any truth in this marketing term, or are this just empty words made by the manufacturer? Well, let's get right into the review to find it out. So here you see the packaging of the UMI C1, and as you can see it's completely white and really slim for a 5.5-inch phone. And let me tell you, I wouldn't have believed that the phone and its accessories would fit in there, but they do. But of course there are not much accessories that come with the phone. If I open up the box, you see a little kind of quick start guide for the phone, which is printed onto this flap on the top and the rear of this one. And then we see two more boxes in which a USB cable and a wall charger are placed. I can't show them to you right now because the guy who did the review for the German issue of ChinaMobileMag forgot to put them back in there. Well, it's a little bit sad, but just look up online and you will see how they look like. Well, that's all. There was one protective film placed inside. I don't know if it comes from UMI or if the shop sent this protector with the phone. It's kind of a replacement protector because one protective film is already applied to the phone out of the box. So here it is, the UMI C1, and this phone is priced at only 130 bucks, and as I said, claims to be a quad-core killer. So this basically means that the phone wants to be a phone that is kicking out all of the competitors in this price range and will be the phone everyone wants to have. Well, in terms of design, I have to say that this could probably be true, because what UMI has done here for 130 bucks is pretty amazing. The front of the phone is basically looking the same as previous UMI phones. It's pretty similar. We have a phone call speaker on the front, a front camera, some sensors and a status LED, and the usual rounded home button. You can see it a bit here, which is back illuminated. Below the screen, you probably also know this from Meizu, and we also have two more touch buttons represented by two dots, which also light up for the menu and back functions. And when we look at the sides, we immediately see a nice metal frame, and let me tell you, this one is a real metal frame, no plastic here. It's a solid metal frame that is not only present outside of there, but the whole inside, the whole chassis is made from metal. So this phone is really tough and you won't be able to twist it or something, and that's really insane for just 130 bucks, I think. I haven't seen something like this before yet. And as you can see here on the left, we have a on-off switch. On the bottom side we only have a voice microphone. Then on the right side we have a volume rocker, and on the top side we have a micro USB port with OTG support, and of course the 3.5mm headphone jack of the phone. And the rear is a little bit disappointing for those of you who don't like clones, as it is. Well, it does look like a Samsung Galaxy S5 somehow. The pattern and the whole feel of the material is completely a knockoff of the Samsung Galaxy S5 back cover. But well, I think most of you will be able to live with that, and I actually like it because it feels really nice, gives a lot of grip so it won't slip out of your hands or something. So that's nice, but they could have done some of their own design here, in my opinion. So else we find a rear camera here, which is rather big and has a metal frame again. we see a LED flash, which is just a single LED flash. We see a UMI logo and CE logos and all that stuff. And here we have the opening for the media speaker. Of course, the rear can be pulled open, and this is holding on very strong. You need quite some force to get it off. And here you see the metal chassis of the phone. It's really solid, really nice, really tough. I really love that. Well, now you see these lots of the phone. We have a micro SD card slot for SD cards of up to 32 GB of memory, and we have a normal sized SIM card slot and a micro SIM card slot, so you can use both types of cards. So everyone only having a normal sized SIM card won't have any problems with this phone. That's really nice. And you also see a huge battery, and it doesn't only look huge, it also has quite some capacity. I can quickly show you what it says. UMI claims it to be between 2340 to 2430 milliamps, and this really is a lot for a quad-core phone, and I believe it has that much because the battery is so huge. And well, that's about the design. As I said, really high build quality, really good materials for the price, and well, I think you can't get any more build quality or high quality materials at this price range these days. So that's pretty much the maximum UMI managed to squeeze out of 130 bucks. Now at 130 bucks you can't expect a 5.5 inch phablet with a 1080p screen, and it's also not possible because of the chipset that's inside of there. So UMI went for a 5.5 inch panel with a resolution of 1280 by 720 pixels, and let me tell you, the screen quality is of course not as good as with a 1080p panel. You simply can't expect that. Don't be worried, the colors are pretty good of this one, maybe a little bit too intense sometimes, but they are pretty good, and the overall sharpness is also still pretty good for a 720p 5.5 inch panel. But they of course can't expect the same amount of clarity and vividness as you get with a high quality 1080p panel. But it still is a good panel for the price and totally acceptable. And let me just show you, you can see pixels. Let me just zoom out a bit for the focus to work. You can see pixels, but they are not as huge as they would have to be to make this a problem. So you definitely notice at first if you used a 1080p screen, but you quickly get used to it, and then you will be totally fine with the screen. Let's have a look at the viewing angles. It's an OGS panel and IPS panel, so they are pretty good as well. There's a slight change in colors. They get a little bit lighter and then they get darker again, but they do not really invert, so it's definitely an IPS panel and it's working pretty good. Talking about the digitizer, this one is working also pretty good, but you have to get used to it because it needs a little more pressure to work perfectly. If you don't put as much pressure on it, it sometimes is lagging a bit or does not react at all, so you have to get used to it to apply more pressure than with other phones, and then it's working perfectly fine and very precise, and I didn't experience any ghost touches or something like this. Now it's already time to talk about performance, and well, the UMI C1 does certainly a good job here. It comes with the MT6582 quad-core processor clocked at 1.3 GHz and based on 4 ARM Cortex A7 cores. Just to say this, there isn't that much difference between a MT6582 octa-core processor and the MT6582 in daily use. The operating systems are basically running the same on these chipsets, surfing the internet works the same, and so on. The only real difference you will notice between the chipsets is during gaming or multitasking, and in this case the MT6582 will be slightly better. But in real life use, in everyday's use, they are surprisingly close to each other, and you wouldn't expect that based on the benchmark results alone. So the MT6582 still provides plenty of power and can even play demanding games nowadays like Real Racing 3. They will of course lag a bit, but they are still playable, and it's up to you to decide if you like that or not. So that being said, the performance is pretty good, and we can have a look at the benchmark results of the phone. And I made some screenshots here because it simply is more convenient to show them to you than opening up all benchmarks one after another. So let's first start with the Antutu benchmark, and here we go. It reached 18,234 points in there, and that's the V5 Antutu benchmark. That's why it scores a little higher here. If we would let it run on the older versions of Antutu, it would reach around 17,000 points. So we are used to this new version to provide a little bit higher scores. And next benchmark I ran was GFX bench, and I will just show you the screenshot without much comments here. That's usual values for MT6582 phones. Let's move forward to Velemo, and here the phone reached 707 points in the metal benchmark, 1,225 points in the multi-core benchmark, and 1,818 points in the browser test. And the next one is 3D Mark, and here the phone reached 2,871 points in the iStorm Unlimited test, 2,083 points in the iStorm Extreme test, and 3,156 points in the normal 720p iStorm test. So that's about the benchmark results, and I will now give you a closer look at the real life performance of the phone in the performance demo. Have fun with this one. now we are going to talk about multimedia performance of the UMI C1, and here you see a 720p video being played that's been recorded with the camera of the phone, and this one is running very smooth and with a good quality. And of course 1080p videos aren't an issue for the MT6582 processor as well. Regarding the internal media speaker, I have to say that this one of course isn't anything high-end, but you can expect it at 130 bucks. But for the price it still is surprisingly good. It can reach a good volume, though you can only use around 70% of the maximum volume, else it will start to show distortions and so on. So the real fun only goes to around 70% of the maximum volume, and while staying below the 80% mark, you definitely have a good audio playback, which is rather clear, but it's not showing any big basses or something. So to have the real fun going on, you really need to plug a headphone or something into your phone, and this one is working perfectly well here with the UMI C1. It has a great audio volume and perfectly clear, no distortions or anything, so that's really fun. And now I will give you a quick demo of the internal media speaker's audio demo using a little audio file I've got from YouTube. Have fun! Now we are getting to the big topic, reception quality, and here I have to say that the UMI C1 managed to surprise me, at least partially. 2G and 3G networks feature a very high reception quality here on this phone. GSM was never a problem and 3G wasn't as well. This phone even got a 3G signal at places where other phones struggled to get one, like for example the Asus Zenfone 5. So that being said, the antenna inside of there seems to be really good and also has no issues with all the metal in this phone, which often is the case when it comes to Chinese phones featuring a metal chassis or metal frames. What I have to say though is that Wi-Fi isn't working quite as well as it could be. It's still perfectly usable, but you definitely notice that the signal strength is dropping rather fast when moving away from the router, and especially in floors below and above the router you will quickly get into trouble when moving especially far away from it. So as I said, it's still usable, but it could be far better. Bluetooth was working perfectly fine in my test without any issues and with the average range. Now, the guy who did the German review told me that the GPS of this phone isn't working quite well, or he didn't manage to get a fix. Well, I think he didn't try long enough, because this phone is one of these phones which takes a while to get their first fix. I mean the very first fix after unboxing the phone. So what I did was to let it rest outside while looking for a GPS signal for 15 minutes, and after this it had a fix, as you can see here, with 10 satellites and 4 meters of accuracy and quite a good signal strength for the satellite, so that's not bad at all. And I then shut it down, waited a few minutes and then fired it up again, and this time it got a fix for the same amount of satellites within like 14 seconds or something, which is rather fast. And the next day I tried it again, and this time it took around 27 seconds to get a fix. So those times are fairly okay, and you only will have issues with the GPS the first time you enable it. So give it some time and it will work. I also did a test inside of the house, and here the signal strength was pretty good as well. This was in front of a window with a fix for 9 satellites and an accuracy of 6 meters, and the signal strength of the satellites was still pretty good. Unfortunately, when I moved away from the window, the signal dropped pretty fast, and I wasn't able anymore to get a location by GPS anymore. Okay guys, we of course have to talk about cameras as well, and let me tell you that the UMI C1 did surprise me again here, because when it comes to phones at such a low price range, we aren't used to anything good. And of course we also can't expect a high-end camera inside of there, but we can expect a good camera that is taking acceptable images under daylight, and that has an overall good performance. And this is exactly what the UMI C1 delivers, and while most other cheap phones fail to deliver this, the UMI C1 creates sharp images, it creates a nice contrast in the images and a good color reproduction, except a bluish tint that is appearing from time to time. Of course, it is no magic camera inside of there. It has issues in low light conditions. It will show a lot of noise, it will create unsharp images and so on. But under daylight it creates really good images, which I really like. And also the video quality is pretty good. Really sharp, like the pictures, lots of details. It doesn't lag, and even the audio quality is really good for videos, and it really is a fun doing short clips with this camera for sure. The front camera of course is just average and only good for quick video calls or emergency selfies, but for no serious pictures like for your passport or anything. But all in all, I'm quite surprised and impressed by the camera inside the UMI C1. Our last stop before the final conclusion about the UMI C1, of course, the battery. I mentioned the capacity already in the beginning, so it's quite large at 2400 milliamps on average. And let me tell you, the optimization could be a little bit better, but it doesn't have a bad battery life. So if you don't take that much care about your power consumption, you will reach one day, even under heavy usage. That shouldn't be an issue. But if you really take care about your energy usage, meaning disabling Wi-Fi on the go or disabling 3G data at home, reducing the maximum screen brightness and all those things that will help you to reduce the power consumption, you will also have no problem getting out 2 days out of this battery. So the battery life definitely is a lot better than with most other cheap MT6582 phones, which only feature 1800 to 2000 milliamps batteries. You definitely notice the difference. Now if you worry about the charging times, don't worry, this is working surprisingly fast. I've got the battery recharged from 20 to 100% within 2 hours, which is perfectly fine and rather fast. So if it's empty suddenly, you won't have any issues with recharging it quickly. Yeah, so much about the battery. I guess it's one of the better batteries, and of course you also have the Pro here, that you easily can replace the cell in case it's dead, or in case you want to carry around a second battery with you if you're worried about the battery life. So now it's time to build a final conclusion out of all the facts that we collected now inside of this review. So I first want to answer you the question, is this phone really a quad-core killer? I guess not. Simply because I think a phone that wants to be a killer in some area needs to be completely flawless and to really kick out the competition. This phone has some flaws, it definitely has, but they are not significant. So it's not enough to be a quad-core killer, but it definitely is the best choice in the phablet area at a price of 130 bucks at this time. You probably won't find any device that is doing anything better or that has such a good that has such good specs. The things that really impressed me the most with this phone is of course the build quality. This metal chassis and this metal frame just make it look like a phone that is worth 160 or 180 or even 200 bucks. You wouldn't believe that you get this one for 130 bucks. And there are no flaws, it feels very good and very solid. Just is a good phone design, there's no doubt about that. And the screen probably isn't the best one, but it's still okay for the price. No way around that. The reception quality for mobile networks is okay, Wi-Fi could be better of course, but reception quality of 2G and 3G is probably the most important, and GPS is working as well, even if it has some issues the first time you're using it. And of course the camera also creates insane results under daylight for a phone in this price range. So the UMI C1 is doing a lot of things right, and I guess if you're looking for a phablet device for 130 bucks, this is the best choice right now. Of course this will change rather fast as the competitors aren't sleeping and are probably working already on something to kick the UMI C1 of its throne. So that being said, I'm done with the review. I hope you enjoyed that, I hope it was helpful for you. If it was, please give a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment and maybe even subscribe to the channel. So thanks for watching, bye and see you soon with more reviews.